Been a while for content. Ready for another horror story? Let's talk about the time that I was working at a job and they paid me with a bad check. So years ago, I started working at a brand new restaurant here in town. It had just opened up. It was a little Greek place. Pretty sure they're not here anymore. So I started the job, and I believe I was working a second job at the time too, because it wasn't full time, and they were only open at night. So I was probably working at one place in the morning, early afternoon, and then this place at night. And I remember the first couple of weeks were fine, but what was irritating was that I hate a job when they cannot be bothered to tell you about all of your responsibilities. And I was hired on as a dishwasher. That's obvious. And the first couple of nights when they tell you, like, oh, when you leave, you do this and this, and then, you can go. Then they start adding on other tasks, like, oh, you should also, take out all of our trash. You should also sweep all of the floors and mop them. You should also run all the rubber mats, through the washer. And this is a single washer, too, so it's small. And this is a small dish pit, too, so it's a small, simple sink and a very short countertop, like no bigger than my desk for my computer. I would show, but it's a tad messy right now, and I don't want to embarrass myself. And, otherwise, it was a perfectly fine job. The people were nice. I don't know. But then we ran into some complications where later on, like if I remember correctly, I think only my first check was okay. And then I got my second check. And that day, I got my paycheck, I deposited it, and then that night, I'm hanging out on my computer. I decide, I'm gonna, just check my banking account. And I notice there's a huge deduction that matches the exact same price of the check that I deposited. The fuck? So I go into my bank the next day and I talk to them about it, and they said, yeah, the paycheck that you deposited was bad. That's the first time I've ever experienced that. A paycheck that was bad. Imagine any job. You're working, or hell, imagine doing somebody a favor and they pay you with a bad check. That's infuriating, especially if it's your job. Thankfully, I went in and I talked to them about it, and they wrote me a personalized check, but then told me to take it to this payday loans place that was right next door that they were friends with to cash the check so I wouldn't have any problems with it. Upon retrospect, if you have to cash your paycheck first before you deposit it to your bank, these should have been sending off alarm bells. But I'm an idiot, and this was the very first time I was experiencing this. And cut 2 days later, I get a phone call from the payday loans place about the check that I cashed with them. And upon retrospect, I have a question of, like, if the check was bad, how could they have cashed it? But anyway, so I talked to my parents, who I often will seek advice from, and they tell me, you should quit this job because this is bad. And yeah. So I'm thinking that night when I'm going to go in for my shift, I'm going to talk to the bosses and I'm going to, give them my 2 weeks notice. A couple of hours before I go in, I receive a phone call, and it's from their son, who I, believe was one of the floor managers. And he explained, like, yeah, man, I'm really sorry. We have to let you go. You can come in and get your last check. Don't worry about the payday loans thing. We will handle that. That is on us. So at least I didn't have to worry about that, at least. And what was funny was that very next day, I went in to pick up my paycheck. Bosses are nowhere to be found, and they were often always there. And there were cops looking for the owners. I don't know what happened. I don't know if people left town. I mean, I imagine what happened, because this was only maybe 2 months into this place being open, was that they took on way more than they could manage. Maybe they took out a loan to start this business, which I know and have heard can be common. But when you suddenly don't have enough money to pay your employees, that's pretty bad. And I don't remember how well business was at the restaurant. I think it was average. But what's sad is that, I've worked at diners that did very well, for themselves. So I guess obviously just poor planning, taking out too much money and not being able to pay people back. I mean, especially if you're writing bad checks to people. Jesus. I don't know how you fuck that up, but yeah, that was a fun little time. I mean, I'm just thankful that at least when, especially when that whole thing happened with the payday loans thing, that I never got another phone call from them. I mean, because technically, I could say like, well, I didn't make the check. They did. So if you're looking for money, it should be from them. I was just the worker that they gave the shitty check to and told me to cash it here. And also what was funny was with my last paycheck that I got, a couple of the other workers who were there told me like, dude, take your paycheck over to Walmart and and get it cashed there. Walmart doesn't fucking care. They won't come after you or anything like that. And I did. I went over to Walmart and I cashed it. And never had any problems with that. So, yeah. Have you guys ever experienced anything like that? That's definitely the first time that I've had a paycheck bounce. I don't know if I've ever had anybody screw me in any other form of a regard. Well, no, I mean, that's not true, but at least not when it came to, being paid for a job or anything like that. But yeah, but let me know. Anyway, see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves.